Class today we'll discuss investment property. Class today we'll discuss investment property. Investment property is under PAS 40. And according to PAS 40, an investment property is defined as land or building held for the purpose of earning rentals or for capital appreciation. Okay, so this is the definition of investment property. Again, an investment property is a land or building held for the purpose of earning rentals or for capital appreciation. Let's have some examples. For example, class, nag-construct tayo ng apartment units and then pinaparenta natin yan sa mga tenants. Okay? This is an example of investment property. Bakit, sir? Because yung apartment is a building held for the purpose of earning rentals. Okay? Now, for example naman, class, bumili tayo ng vacant lot. Okay? And then yung vacant lot na yan, ang gagawin natin, i-hold natin for a couple of years. Gusto natin tumaas yung value niya. Okay? This is also an investment property. Bakit, sir? This is a land held for capital appreciation. Okay? Now, huwag kayong ma-confuse between investment property and PPE or property, plant, and equipment. Meron tayong separate session for PPE, and according to PAS 40, by the way, ang ibang term na ginagamit sa PPE is owner-occupied property. So, pag nabasa mo yung owner-occupied property, PPE lang din yan. Okay? Magkamukha lang sila. Now, examples of PPE are land, building, machinery, and equipment. Pero ang purpose of PPE is, number one, for production or supply of goods and services or for administrative purposes. Magkaiba sila ng purpose. Kapag investment property, earning rentals and capital appreciation. Kapag PPE, production or supply of goods or services or for admin purposes. Pag sabi mong production or supply of goods and services, ibig sabihin niyang class, ginagamit natin yung PPE for our operations. Alright? Pag sinabi mo namang admin purposes, ang maganda example niyan, ginagamit natin siya as our office. Okay? Now, para mas ma-distinguish natin yung investment property and PPE, let's have some further examples. Okay? Let's say, class, we are a BC company. Scenario 1 natin, ang business natin is we produce and sell accounting books. Ayan. So, we produce and sell accounting books. Now, let's say meron tayong land and building. And then, ginagamit natin dyan tayo nagpiprint ng mga books. So, for printing, and then, dyan na rin yung head office natin. Alright? So, again, scenario 1 natin, class, meron tayong, ang business natin is nagpo-produce and nagbebenta tayo ng mga accounting books. Yan, may land and building tayo dyan. Dyan tayo nagpiprint, and dyan na rin yung head office natin. Ano class yung classification of land and building na yan? This is a PPE. Bakit, sir? Kasi, yung land and building, again, ginagamit mo siya for printing or yun yung operations. Production or supply of goods and services. Ginagamit natin siya sa head office, yun din yung administrative purposes. Gets? Okay. Now, for example naman, class, meron tayong excess cash. May sobra tayong cash. Gusto nating i-invest. Ang ginawa natin, nagpagawa tayo ng condo units and then pinaparenta natin yan sa mga tenants. Ano yung classification ng condo units natin na yan? Is it PPE or investment property? Investment property. Bakit, sir? Yung condo is a building held for the purpose of earning rentals. Okay? So, this one is an investment property. So, ganito lang, class, para madali nyo maalala. Kapag related sa operations, sa main line of business natin, PPE yan. So, lagi ko dito, related. Kapag unrelated, okay, sa main line of business natin, investment property yan. So, dito, class, nagpo-produce and nagbebenta tayo ng accounting books o yung land and building na ginagamit natin for printing, related sa business yan. Kaya, PPE yan. Yung condo units, ano ba naman ang kinalaman nun sa printing and selling of accounting books? Wala, unrelated yan. That's why this is an investment property. Malinaw? Okay, good. Scenario 2. For example naman, class, we are a property developer. Yan yung business natin. Property developer. Ngayon, ang ginawa natin, nag-construct tayo ng apartment units and then pinaparenta natin yan sa mga tenants. Ano yung classification of apartment units? PPE or investment property? Actually, class, ang classification yan is this is PPE. Leading ko, kapag related dun sa main line of business natin, property developer tayo, yung pag-construct ng apartment, related yan. PPE yan. Specifically, yan yung supply of services. Nagpo-provide tayo ng services or renting services dun sa mga tenants natin. Gets? Okay. Now, for example naman, class, dun pa rin, property developer, nag-construct tayo ng condominium and then binebenta natin for sale. Ano yung classification ng condominium na yan? Actually, hindi yan PPE, hindi rin yan investment property. This is considered as inventory. Alright? So, property developer tayo, nag-construct tayo ng condo, binebenta natin, inventory yan. Clear? Okay. Now, let's go to measurement. As usual, meron tayong initial measurement and subsequent measurement of investment property. Doon muna tayo sa initial measurement. Initially, all investment properties are measured at cost. So, pag sabi mong cost, basically, class, yan lahat ng all costs incurred, okay, in constructing the investment property. For example, direct materials, direct labor, and overhead, as well as all necessary costs to complete the investment property. Okay, so basically, initial measurement ng investment property is cost. Lahat na naggastos natin na necessary para ma-construct or ma-complete yung investment property, yun yung initial measurement natin. Okay? Let's go to subsequent measurement. Every December 31, how do we measure an investment property? Actually, meron allowed sa atin na 2 models. Okay? Pwedeng cost model or fair value model. Pag sinabi mong cost model class, ang presentation ng investment property in the balance sheet is cost less accumulated depreciation less accumulated impairment, you have the carrying amount, also called carrying value or book value. So, ulitin ko class. Kapag cost model, start ka with cost, which is yung initial measurement natin, minus accumulated depreciation, meron tayong separate topic for depreciation, minus accumulated impairment, meron tayong separate topic for impairment, and then makukuha mo dyan is the carrying amount. Ang ibang tao sa carrying amount is carrying value or book value. Okay? So, FYI, mukha lang ibig sabihin niya. Carrying amount, carrying value, book value. Alright? Ang tawag natin dyan class, cost model. Now, kapag naman fair value model, ang ginagawa natin dyan class, nagma-mark to market tayo every December 31. Ano ba yung mark to market? Nagpe-fair value tayo. Okay, kaya fair value model. And lahat ng changes in fair value, i-report natin in the P&L or income statement. Sir, parang familiar yan. Naalala nyo ba yung FBPL sa investments? Ganun yung fair value model. Okay, ganun siya. So, kung mark to market tayo every December 31, lahat ng unrealized gains, ipipresent natin in profit and loss. Okay? And take note class, kapag fair value model, this is not subject to depreciation. Okay? So, always remember that. Medyo marami nagkakamali dyan. So, tandaan nyo lang, pag fair value model, hindi natin depreciate. Para maalala mo yan, kung to recall class, yung FVPL na diniscuss natin sa investments, naalala nyo ba hindi natin ina-amortize yun? Tama? Ganun din dito. Kapag fair value model na investment property, hindi natin dinidepreciate. Alright? So, remember that. Okay. So, apply muna natin to class. Let's go to our handouts. Let's go first to illustrative example number 1. Go to illustrative example number 1. Tignan natin class kung how much yung investment property, yun yung requirement number 1, compute the total amount of investment property that should be reported in the statement of financial position and indicate the classification of the assets that are excluded from investment property. Okay, isa-isahin natin class per line item. Let's read the given. Pinnacle Company owns the following properties that are accounted for in accordance with international accounting standards. Okay, so for each line item, tignan natin class yung classification. Okay, so isulat nyo na lang dyan sa gilid kung ano yung classification yan. Letter A. Land held for long-term capital appreciation. Kapag capital appreciation, that is an investment property. So, lagay mo dyan, investment property, 3 million. Letter B, land held for a currently undetermined use. Actually, lagay ko na dito. No? So, lagyan natin investment property. And then, lagyan na rin natin yung PPE. Compute natin pareho yan. So, yung letter A, na 3 million investment property yan. Letter B, land held for currently undetermined use. So, meron kang land, pero hindi mo alam kung ano yung paggagamitan yan. Merong assumption dyan na kapag hindi mo pa alam yung paggagamitan mo ng land, ang assumption dyan is for capital appreciation. Okay? That's why this is also an investment property. So B, lagyan natin siya sa investment property, 2.5 million. Okay. Letter C, building owned by Pinnacle leased out under an operating lease. Now, yung lease is a major topic in financial accounting. Meron tayong separate discussion dyan, okay? Pagdating natin sa liabilities. Pero ito na lang muna yung tandaan nyo for now. Okay? Meron tayong 2 types of lease. Layo dito class ha. 2 types of lease. Number 1, meron tayong operating lease. And second, we have finance lease. Okay? Tandaan mo class, kapag operating lease, no transfer of ownership. Okay? Sa atin pa rin yung property. Hindi natin tinatransfer dun sa tenants natin. Pag sinabi mong finance lease, with transfer of ownership. Okay? So for now, ito na lang muna kasi tandaan nyo. Kasi again, meron tayong separate discussion for leases. Di-discuss natin in detail. Pero for now, tandaan mo, we have 2 types of lease. Operating lease, no transfer of ownership. Sa atin pa rin yung property. Kapag finance lease, with transfer of ownership. So technically, tinatransfer natin yung ownership dun sa tenants. Okay? Yun yung finance lease. Sige, so building owned by Pinnacle leased out under an operating lease. So sa atin pa rin yung property. Kasi operating lease yan. No transfer of ownership. So, earning rentals. Ibig sabihin class, yung 1.5 million na yan, this is also an investment property. Okay? Let's go to letter D, building that is vacant but is held to be leased out under an operating lease. So pag operating lease, sa atin pa rin yung property. Earning rentals, this is an investment property. So letter D, lagyan natin 1.8 million investment property. Letter E, property that is being constructed or developed for future use as an investment property. Dito, currently kino-construct pa lang. Tandaan mo class, ang magpe-prevail dito is the intention of the management. Okay? Ano ba yung intention? Bakit siya kino-construct? Sabi dyan, para gamitin as investment property. Yun yung ipa-follow natin. Okay? Pag ganito class, follow the intention. So, yung 2 million na yung class, lagay natin, letter E, 2 million is investment property. Letter F, property held for use in production or supply of goods and services and for administrative purposes. Alam natin class, PPE yan. So, for letter E, lagay natin dito. That is, or letter F na pala tayo. So, letter F, PPE, how much? That is 1.7 million. Let's go to letter G, property held for use as owner-occupied property. Again, for future use daw. So again, ipa-follow natin kung ano yung intention. Ano yung intention? Owner-occupied property. Sabi ko earlier, pag sinabing owner-occupied property, ang ibig sabihin lang din nun, PPE. So this one, for letter G, we classify this as PPE. So how much yan? 1.9 million. Okay? Let's go to letter H. Property held for future development and subsequent use as owner-occupied property. So again, ang intention is owner-occupied property, which is also a PPE. Therefore, yung letter H na yung class, 3 million, we classify this as PPE. Let's go to letter I. Property held for sale in the ordinary course of business or in the process of construction, development for such sale. Parang yung example natin kanina. Property developer, nag-develop tayo ng condo, nag-construct ng condo, bibenta natin. Inventory yan. Okay, so lagay mo dyan class, yung letter I is inventory. Letter J, property being constructed or developed on behalf of third parties. So basically class, tayo yung nagko-construct para sa ibang tao. Okay? So para sa ibang party. So actually under LTCC yan in AFAR, long-term construction contracts. Doon natin siya i-discuss. Okay? So tayo yung basically point of view tayo ng contractor. Tayo yung nagko-construct in behalf of the client. Okay? So FYI, sa letter J, lagay mo dyan class, ang presentation nito is construction in progress or CIP. Lagay mo alam muna, i-discuss natin yan in AFAR. So yung letter J is a CIP, construction in progress. It's an asset account. Okay? Pero hindi siya PPE, hindi rin siya investment property. Alright? Let's go to letter K, property that is leased out to another entity under finance lease. Ingat ka dyan, class. Kasi pag finance lease, sabi ko, with transfer of ownership. Ibig sabihin, hindi na sa atin yung property na yan. Okay? Technically, doon na yan sa tenant. Okay? Siya na yung may-ari nun. So, ibig sabihin, yung 1.3 million, hindi na-recognize natin yan. Hindi yan makikita sa financial statements natin. And letter L, machinery leased out by Pinnacle under an operating lease. Okay, sana. Earning rentals, investment property sana. Pero take note, sa investment property, ang magka-qualify lang dyan is land or building. Nakalagay dito, machinery. Okay, yan yung minsan yung trick dyan. Okay? Kapag machinery pinaparenta mo, hindi yan investment property. This is a PPE. So, lagay natin, letter L, 1 million PPE. So again, ang magka-qualify lang as investment property, land or building lang. Hindi yan pwede mag-qualify kapag machinery and equipment. Kapag machinery and equipment, automatic, PPE. Okay? So let's compute for the balances. For investment property, tingnan natin class. So 3 million plus 2.5 million plus 1.5 million plus 1.8 plus 2 million. Answer mo dito class, total investment property is 10.8 million. And then for PPE naman, 1.7 million plus 1.9 plus 3 million plus 1 million. Answer mo dito class, 7.6 million. Total investment property, 10.8 million. Total PPE or also called owner-occupied property, 7.6 million. So okay na tayo sa requirement B. Indicate the classification. Na-classify natin kanina. Meron dyang inventory. Meron dyang CIP. Okay? Sige. Let's go to main problem number 1. Actually, halos ganun din yan. Main problem number 1. Tignan din natin yung classification. We have 2 questions. What amount of investment property should be reported in the consolidated financial statements? And question number 2, what amount of PPE should be reported in the consolidated financial statements? So, lagyan natin dito, class, investment property and PPE. Kung mapapansin nyo, class, ang difference between yung illustrative example 1 and main problem 1, sa main problem 1, nakalagay consolidated. Okay? I-discuss natin yan sa business combination in AFAR. Okay? Pero papakita ko lang sa inyo later kung ano yung effect kapag consolidated yung question. Alright? Sige. So, let's read the given. Angelica Corporation provided the following properties owned by the group. Number 1, land held for undetermined future use. Pag hindi mo pa alam, yung paggagamitin mo for capital appreciation yan. Investment property. So, lagyan natin dito, class, 1 million. Next, vacant building to be leased out under an operating lease. Earning rentals and then building siya. So, qualified siya as investment property. Lagyan natin, 2 million. Number 3, property held for use in production. Production or supply of goods and services. Alam natin, class, this is a PPE. Lagyan natin dito, 4 million. And then next, property held by a subsidiary in the ordinary course of business. Ibig sabihin niya, for sale yan. Therefore, inventory yan. Tama? So, yung 3 million inventory yung classification yan. Next, building owned by a subsidiary and the subsidiary provides security and maintenance services to the lessee. So, building and then may mga lessee, ibig sabihin pinaparenta natin yan. Okay? So, qualified siya as investment property. So, lagyan natin 2.5 million under investment property. And the next, land leased to a subsidiary under an operating lease. So, tandaan mo lang, class, again, yung consolidation na yan, di-discuss natin, major topic sa AFAR yan, pero tandaan mo lang, merong concept dyan na parent and subsidiary. Okay? Now, for now, ang kailangan mo lang maalala, pagdating sa investment property, okay? Kapag pinarenta ni parent si subsidiary, di ba usually kapag pinarenta mo, investment property, kapag parent and subsidiary yung transaction, classify yan as PPE. Yun lang muna yung tandaan nyo, okay? Pag yung transaction is between the parent and subsidiary, sa consolidated FS, huwag mo ipepresent as investment property. PPE yan. Okay? For now, yun muna tandaan mo, para hindi ka malito. Yung conso, again, in detail, i-discuss natin yan in AFAR. So, land leased to a subsidiary under the operating lease, again, PPE yan. So, lagyan natin dito, class, 1.5 million. Pero again, dapat, conso. Okay? Pag hindi, para lang yung ginawa natin sa illustrative example 1. Sige. Equipment leased to an unrelated party under an operating lease. Oy, hindi ka na siyempre matitrick dyan. Kapag equipment, automatic PPE yan. Hindi ka pwede maging equipment na investment property kasi investment property, land or building lang yan. So, lagyan natin dito, class, PPE, 500,000. And then, building under construction for use as investment property. Again, magpe-prevail yung intention of management. Ang intention dito is to be used as investment property. Therefore, lagay mo yan under investment property. Let's compute the balances. 1 million plus 2 million plus 2.5 million plus 3.5 million. Sagot mo dito, class. 9 million for investment property. Dog, yung sagot mo dyan. For PPE naman, 4 million plus 1.5 million plus 500,000. Answer natin dito, 6 million. Letter C. Okay? So, ayan, for main problem number 1. Alright? So, yeah. So, jump tayo, class, to main problem number 3. Main problem number 3 muna tayo. Babalikan natin yung 2 mamaya. Main problem number 3. Okay, so we have 2 questions here. So, lagyan natin main problem number 3. 2 questions first. Under the cost model, what amount should be reported as depreciation? Under the fair value model, what amount should be recognized as gain from change in fair value? So, to recall, investment property, subsequently, pwedeng cost model, pwedeng fair value model. Kapag cost model, cost, less accumulated depreciation, less accumulated impairment, you have the carrying amount, also called carrying value, also called book value. Yun yung presentation mo sa balance sheet. Kapag fair value model, from the term itself, fair value, mark to market natin yan, tandaan mo lang, parang FVPL lang yung accounting treatment yan. Okay? So, let's read the given. And then, mag-provide na rin tayo ng journal entry. So, lagay ko dito, class, cost model, and then dito yung fair value. Erase natin to. Pakita ko yung journal entries, and then, para mas ma-visualize yung kung paano yung cost model and fair value model. So, cost, and then fair value. Sige. Kaya Shamrock Company ventured into construction of a condominium in Mandaluyong. The entity's board of directors decided that instead of selling the condo, the entity would hold this property for purpose of earning rentals, okay, by leasing out to business executives in the area. So, condo, ibig sabihin building siya, papalease out natin, ibig sabihin this is an investment property, okay? The construction of the condominium was completed and the property was placed into service on January 1, 2021. The cost of the construction was 50 million. The useful life is 25 years, the residual value is 5 million. So again, meron tayong separate discussion sa depreciation, pero for investment property, usually straight line lang yan. So, papakita ko later. Doon muna tayo sa cost model. Under cost model class, ito yung mga journal entries natin. On January 1, 2021, natapos na yung investment property, debit investment property, credit cash, that is 50 million. Alright? Under fair value model, obviously, magkamukha lang yan. January 1, 2021, debit investment property, credit cash, 50 million. Okay? Let's go to December 31, 2021. Again, magdi-depreciate tayo. Straight line lang yan. So, FYI, nalang muna, tanda mo, pag magdi-depreciate ka, you have the cost, 50 million, minus the residual value of 5 million, i-divide mo siya by useful life na 25 years. This is your depreciation expense. So, 50 million minus 5 million divided by 25, you have 1.8 million. Okay? Depreciation expense natin is 1.8 million. Debit, depreciation expense. Credit, accumulated depreciation, that is 1.8 million. Alright? Kaya, class, ang sagot na sa question number 1, under the cost model, what amount should be reported as depreciation? Sagot mo dyan, letter A, 1.8 million. Now, punta tayo dito sa fair value model. On December 31, 2021, tignan natin class yung mga fair value. Tama ba yung cost natin dyan is 50 million? And then, noong 2021, 2022, 2023, nakita mo ba dyan class, nakalagay, an independent valuation expert provided the following fair value at year end. So, naging 55 million, and then naging 53 million, and then 60 million. Okay, ganyan nangyari every end of the year. Again, pag fair value model, nag-mark to market tayo, measure natin at fair value every end of the year. So, ganito mangyari dyan. From 50, naging 55, so that's an increase of 5 million, therefore, this is an unrealized gain. Tama? 55, naging 53, that's a decrease of 2 million, this is an unrealized loss. 53 to 60, increase of 7 million, this is an unrealized gain. So, alam natin, pag tumaas gain, pag bumaba, loss. Parang FVPL lang yan. Okay? So, entry natin class, December 31, 2021, debit, investment property, credit, unrealized gain, represent natin yan in P&L, that is 5 million. Okay? Ibang tawag sa unrealized gain is gain from change in fair value. Pwede rin yan. Mahaba yan. Unrealized gain na lang. Okay? So, again, parang FVPL siya, therefore, yung unrealized gain na yan, lagay mo sa P&L. Okay, kaya sagot class dun sa question number 2, under the fair value model, what amount should be recognized as gain in 2021? Sagot mo dyan is 5 million, letter A din yung sagot dyan, okay? Pero kumpletuhin natin class yung entries hanggang 2023. December 31, 2022, magre-record na tayo ng depreciation. Actually, same entry lang yan. Lagay ko lang class, same entry ha. Same, debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation, 1.8 million. December 31, 2023, same din siya, debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation, 1.8 million. Pag ang tinanong sa'yo, how much is the carrying amount as of December 31, 2023? Ano yung sagot mo dyan? Well, meron tayong cost na 50 million, less accumulated depreciation, ilang beses tayo nag-depreciate? 3 years. 1.8 million, 1.8 million, 1.8 million. So, ilan yun? 1.8 million times 3, that is 5.4 million. So, pag ang tinanong sa'yo, how much is the carrying amount or carrying value? 50 million minus 5.4 million, sagot mo dyan class is 44.6 million. Just in case itanong, yun yung sagot mo. Carrying amount as of December 31, 2023. Let's go to fair value model. December 31, 2022, again, Recognize mo yung 2 million na loss, debit unrealized loss in P&L, credit investment property, 2 million. Alright? And then, 12/31/2023, nagkaroon tayo ng gain na 7 million, debit investment property, credit unrealized gain P&L, 7 million. So kaya class, para mas madalian ka, pag fair value model, isipin mo lang yung accounting natin for FVPL, under investments. Okay? Ngayon, pag ang tinanong sa'yo class, how much yung carrying amount as of December 31, 2023? Ano yung sasagot mo dyan? At fair value. Okay? Fair value natin, 60 million. So pag tinanong sa'yo yan, answer mo dyan, 60 million. And take note, under fair value model, hindi tayo nagdi-depreciate. Okay? Walang depreciation expense dito sa entries natin. Alright? Sige. Balik tayo dun sa main problem number 2. Okay, main problem number 2. Hindi na tayo mag-entry sa main problem number 2. Okay? Kasi nagawa na natin yan sa number 3. Alright? So main problem number 2, raise mo natin. Okay. Let's see. The amount of gain to be recognized in profit or loss for the year, well, let's read the given. Jomer Company's accounting policy with respect to investment properties is to measure them at fair value at the end of each reporting period. So fair value model, mark to market tayo. One of its investment properties was measured at 8 million on December 31, 2021. The property had been acquired on January 1 for a total of 7.6. Made up of 6.9 million, yun yung binayad, paid to the vendor, 300,000 paid to local authority as property tax transfer, and 400,000 paid to professional advisors. Ano ibig sabihin ng class? Yung na-incur natin dyan na 6.9 million, yun yung binayad natin, okay? Plus, lahat ng necessary costs. So dito, yung 300,000 na binayad mo sa property tax transfer and dun sa professional advisors, yung mga brokers, yung mga ganyan, necessary yan. Kailangan mong bayaran yan para ma-transfer sa atin yung title, okay? Para mabili natin yung investment property. So, ika-capitalize natin yan. So that's why lahat yan, 6.9 million plus 300,000 plus 400,000, 7.6 million, lahat yan, ika-capitalize natin as investment property. So, ganito lang gagawin ko dyan, class, sa main problem number 2. So, T-account lang ako. As you notice, kapag nagsasagot ako ng mga problems, mga short problems, usually T-account ginagamit ko. Okay? So meron tayong beginning balance, yung initial measurement na 7.6 million. And then, the useful life of the property is 40 years. Pag-trick lang yan. Huwag kang magdi-depreciate kasi fair value model yan. What the amount of gain to be recognized in P&L in the year is, okay, so sabi dyan class sa second sentence, one of its investment properties was measured at 8 million on December 31. Ito yung fair value end of the year. Okay? Solve for X, nag-increase ng 400,000. Tama ba class? Entry mo dyan, debit investment property, credit unrealized gain, P&L, 400,000. Answer, letter A, 400,000. Easy. So kaya, T-account lang. Sobrang simple ang solution natin. Kasi alam natin na lahat ng necessary cost, ika-capitalize natin. Yun yung initial measurement. Alam natin kapag fair value model, walang depreciation expense. Alam na rin natin lahat ng journal entries. So very straightforward, T-account, nakuha natin class, increase. Therefore, there's a gain, 400,000, letter A. Okay. So ganyan siya. So yeah, now, let's go to other accounting issues that we might encounter in investment property. Alright, so last three na yan. Tingnan natin. First is, if the property can be classified as partly investment property or partly PPE. Okay? Now, for example, kasi ito yung building natin. Merong 4 floors. Now, yung first floor and second floor, let's say pinaparenta natin yung mga commercial spaces yan. So, lagay ko commercial. Pinaparenta natin sa mga tenants. Okay? And then yung third floor and fourth floor, for example, ito yung office natin. Okay? So leading ko, meron tayong building. No? Building. Yung first 2 floors, pinaparenta natin, commercial spaces. And then yung third floor and fourth floor, ginagamit natin as our office. Sir, paano natin ka-classify yan? Kasi yung commercial, yun yung para for yung pinaparenta, earning rentals. Ito naman, yung office, administrative purposes naman yan. So, meron kang investment property, meron kang PPE. So, paano natin sir i-classify yung buong building na yan? Ganito lang yan, class. Ang criteria natin to know the classification, kapag partly investment property, partly PPE, could the property be sold separately? Pwede ba nating ibenta yan separately? Okay? So, yun yung criteria dito. Could the property be sold separately? So, in this case, per floor ba na yan, mabibenta ba natin? Parang ganun. Now, if the answer is yes, okay? Pag yes, mabibenta natin separately, yung portion na nilist out natin, basically yung first 2 floors, ito, 1 and 2, consider yan as investment property. Yun yung classification yan. Okay? And then yung office natin, ika-classify mo naman yan as PPE. Alright, so ulitin ko class. Pag ganyan yung building mo, ang criteria dyan, mabibenta mo ba separately yan per floor? Kapag yes, mabibenta natin, pwede mong i-separate yan, yung classification. Yung first 2 floors na nilist out natin, investment property. Like dito, 1 and 2. Ibig sabihin, first 2 floors. And then yung 3 and 4, third floor and fourth floor natin, PPE naman yan. Okay? Now, paano sir kung hindi natin mabibenta separately yung mga floors na yan? Well, titignan mo class, ipa-follow mo kung sino yung significant. Alright? Kung ano yung significant. So, for example, yung building na yan, may 50 units. Okay? 50 units yung total. Now, first scenario natin, yung isang unit, Ang ginagawa mo diyang class is office. Alright? Now, second scenario natin, yung isang unit, pinaparenta natin. Okay, so ulitin ko. Ang scenario natin, hindi mo siya mabibenta separately. Yung classification mo will depend kung ano yung mas significant. Okay? Let's assume na yung building na yan, merong 50 units. Isang unit doon, ginagamit natin for office. Ibig sabihin, tama ba mas significant yung pinaparenta natin, which is 49 units. In that case, investment property yan. Okay? Now, let's say naman, yung 50 units, isa lang doon pinaparenta natin. Yung 49 units, ginagamit natin as office. Therefore, yung buong building is classified as PPE. Take note, buong building yan. Okay? Buong building, investment property, or buong building, PPE. So, ulitin ko, kapag pwede natin i-separate, okay? Pag pwede mabenta, pwede mo i-separate yung classification. Pag hindi mo pwedeng ibenta separately, kung ano yung mas significant, yun yung ipa-follow mo. So, in this case, sa first example natin, buong building is considered as investment property. Dito naman, buong building is considered as PPE. Okay? Let's go to illustrative example number 2. Alright? So, para mas malinaw, illustrative example number 2, nakalagay dyan, class portions sold separately. Mr. Accounting Company has a 10-story condominium building with a carrying amount of 4 million. Okay, so lagyan natin dito, illustrative example number 2, 4 million yung carrying amount. Okay? So 10-story yung condo building. The first 4 floors are being rented out to tenants under operating lease and the rest are used as office space. Okay? So ibig sabihin yung 4 floors out of 10, nakalagay sa first sentence, 10-story doon. Tama? Ginagamit natin to for nire-rent natin, for rent. Tama? Earning rentals. And then yung 6 out of 10 naman, ginagamit as office. Okay, so tingnan natin class. The first floors are being rented out to tenants under operating lease and the rest are used as office space. Each portion of the building can be sold separately. Yun yung important. Pag pwede mo siya ibenta separately, yung classification natin, ihiwalay natin yan. So, ibig sabihin class, yung 4 million times 4 over 10, how much ba yan? 4 million times 4 over 10. That is 1.6 million. 1.6 million, since pinaparent natin yan, classification yan is investment property. 4 million times 6 over 10, 2.4 million, classification yung class is PPE. Okay, yan yung application nito. Gets? Okay, so that's our main problem, number 2. Nakalagay dyan kasi, assume that the fair values are approximately equal. How much classified as investment property and owner-occupied property? 1.6 million for investment property, 2.4 million for PPE or owner-occupied property. Let's go to illustrative example, number 3. Portions not sold separately. Hindi natin pwedeng ibenta separately. Pipiliin mo kung ano yung mas significant. Okay? Company X owns a 100,000 square meter mall. The rentable space is 80,000. However, a 10 square meter space is occupied as an admin office. So, take note class na yung total is 80,000 square meters. And then, out of 80,000, merong 10 square meters na office. Obviously, 10 out of 80,000, alam natin class, insignificant yan. Okay? So, ang mas significant sa atin is yung pinaparenta natin. Okay? So, yung nakalagay dyan, the rentable space is 80,000. Mas significant yung portion na pinaparenta. Therefore, this whole building, which is the carrying amount is 10 million, buo yan, 10 million will be classified as investment property. Okay? So, 0 para dun sa PPE. So, yun yung classification yan. 10 million sa investment property, 0 for PPE. Okay? Sige. Alright, so next, accounting issue. Number 2. Whenever we provide ancillary services to occupants. Sir, ano ba ibig sabihin ng ancillary services? Ibig sabihin ng class, yun yung mga support services. Ang magandang example ng mga support services, security. Okay, pag may security guard tayo dun sa building. Okay, ano pa? Maintenance. Okay, pag-maintain ng building, yan yung mga ancillary services. Okay? Now, sir, bakit naging issue yan? Tignan mo class kung anong klase yung ancillary services. If these services are significant, okay, significant or insignificant. Okay? Ano example class ng significant yung ancillary services? Ang magandang example niyan, hotel. Okay? Kasi kapag hotel, ang pinoprovide mo, nagpo-provide ka ng accommodation, nagpo-provide ka ng food, ano pa, nagpo-provide ka ng security, and so on and so forth. So, ibig sabihin ng class, yun yung pinakamagandang example na significant yung ancillary services natin. Kapag ganyan, ang classification of the property is PPE, property, plant, and equipment. Okay? So again, kasi yung hotel na yan, provide tayo ng, yan yung services talaga natin. Provide tayo ng accommodation, ng security, ng food, etc. Pag ganyan class, significant, PPE classification yan. Kapag naman insignificant yung ancillary services, ang pinakamaganda example dito yung condo. Di ba class, pag condo, merong security guard, tama? May nagme-maintain ng building. Pero, incidental services lang yan. Hindi talaga yung main services ng condo. Ang main services ng condo, pag-provide ng accommodation. So, kapag insignificant yan, or kapag incidental lang yung ancillary services, this is an investment property. Okay? So, i-apply natin yung class. Let's go to illustrative example number 4. Illustrative example number 4. Tingnan natin. Insignificant ancillary services. CPA company owns a building being rented out to various tenants under operating lease. CPA provides security and maintenance service. The building has a carrying amount of 1 million. Leasing is not the primary business of CPA. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Insignificant. Okay, incidental lang yung pag-provide natin ng security and services. Sabi ko dyan, investment property. So in this case, yung buong 1 million class, i-classify natin as investment property. 0 for PPE. Yun yung sagot natin for illustrative example number 4. Okay? Let's go to illustrative example number 5. CPA company owns a building operated as a hotel. The building has a carrying amount of 1 million. Kapag hotel, significant yung mga services na pinoprovide natin sa mga occupants natin. In that case, yung buong 1 million, considered naman this time as PPE. Okay, 0 naman tayo for investment property. Okay, so yun yung sagot natin for illustrative example number 5. Okay, so tapusin na natin to class. Let's go to transfers between investment property, PPE, and inventory. Yung concept nito class, kung maaalala nyo yung diniscuss natin in investments, yung reclassification, naalala nyo yan, FBPL, gagawing FBOCI, gagawing amortized cost, ganun din yung ibig sabihin yan. Okay? So whenever there's a change in use of the property, so lagay natin, change in use, pwede tayong mag-transfer or mag-reclassify between investment property, PPE, or inventory. Okay? Now, para hindi ka malito, ganito lang yung technique dyan. Okay? Pag reclassification or kapag transfers. Tignan mo muna class kung anong model yung ginagamit. Cost model or fair value model. Pinakamadali kapag cost model. Okay? For example, investment property, transfer natin as PPE. I-reclassify natin. Entry mo dyan, debit, PPE, credit investment property, at carrying amount. Okay? Ganoon na siya. So, kung ano yung carrying amount, o investment property mo, okay, debit mo yung PPE, credit investment property, at carrying amount, ilan yung entry mo. Walang problema. Okay? It's very straightforward. Nagkakaroon na lang issue class kapag fair value model. Okay? Meron tayong 3 scenarios. Investment property, gagawin nating PPE o kaya naman inventory. Inventory, gagawin natin investment property, or PPE, gagawin natin investment property. Okay, hindi mahirap yan. Ganito lang yan, class. Di ba? Yung investment property, gagawin yung PPE. Di debit PPE, tandaan mo, class, laging fair value yung debit mo. Okay, kapag magre-reclassify ka. Credit, investment property, carrying amount yan. Tama? Yung nasa books natin. Obviously, may difference yan. Alright? So, yung fair value, iba yan sa carrying amount. Yung difference yan, i-charge mo sa profit or loss. PNL yan. Gain or loss yan. Okay, diretso sa PNL. Ganun lang kapag investment property to PPE. Now, let's say naman class, from inventory, ginawa nating investment property. Debit investment property at fair value. Okay. Credit inventory at carrying amount. And then difference nila class is PNL. Uy, kamukha lang ah. Kamukha lang treatment yan. Okay. Lagi mong i-debit at fair value. Okay. Credit, syempre tatanggalin mo yung carrying amount. Difference nila charge mo sa PNL. Ganun ang rules kapag investment property to PPE or inventory to investment property. Ngayon, dito lang tayo may konting issue dyan. Okay? So, dito natin lagay class para kitang-kita natin. So, kapag ang transfer is from PPE to investment property, ganito gagawin mo dyan class. Debit, investment property, laging fair value yan. Napansin nyo, laging fair value yung debit natin? Ganun din sa reclassification natin sa FBPL, FBOCI, amortized cost. Laging debit at fair value. Credit, PPE at carrying amount. Okay? Now, depende yan. Kasi pwedeng, ang balancing figure mo dyan, pwedeng debit or pwedeng credit. Okay? Kapag debit, loss yan. Okay? PNL. Specifically, impairment loss. Okay ko dito, impairment loss kapag loss. Yung balancing figure mo. Kapag naman ang balancing figure mo is a gain, i-charge mo naman yung class sa revaluation surplus, which is an OCI account. Okay? Meron tayong separate discussion for revaluation. O tanda mo, kapag PPE to investment property, debit investment property at fair value, always ganyan naman yan. Credit PPE at carrying amount. Kapag loss, impairment loss yan, okay, sa PNL. Kapag gain, revaluation surplus yan sa OCI. Doon sa first 2 scenarios natin class, whether gain or loss, PNL lahat yan. Okay, so ang only instance na mayroon kang OCI, revaluation surplus, kapag PPE, gagawin mo investment property, tapos may gain ka. Okay, revaluation surplus yan. Okay? Sige. Para mas ma-appreciate natin yan, let's answer the remaining questions. Punta tayo sa main problem number 4. Main problem number 4. Okay. Main problem number 4. On January 2, 2019, Francis Company acquired an investment property and the initial cost was 5 million. On the date of acquisition, the company chooses the cost model. So, underline mo yung cost model to account for its investment. Pag cost model, walang problema yan. Debit PPE, or kung ano man siya, credit investment property at carrying amount. Okay? On the date of acquisition, the company chooses the cost model. As of December 31, it has a carrying value of 4.9 million and fair value of 5.1 million. On December 31, the company decided to transfer the investment property to owner-occupied property. So, ang ginawa natin, investment property, owner-occupied property, or PPE. Okay? Same lang yan, PPE. Sige. On the date of transfer, the fair value is 5 million, while its carrying amount or carrying value was 4.8 million. What amount of gain or loss should the company recognize? Pag cost model at carrying amount yan, i-disregard mo lahat ng fair value na given sa problem. So, ang entry mo lang dito, class, debit, kasi investment property, gagawin natin PPE, di ba? Debit PPE, credit investment property, use the carrying amount, nandun yun sa second to the last sentence na 4.8 million. Okay, debit PPE, 4.8 million, credit investment property, 4.8 million. Sagot mo dito, letter A, no gain or loss. Ulitin ko, class, kapag cost model, simply re-reclassify lang natin at carrying amount, wala kang gain or loss kasi equal yung debit and your credit. Okay? So for number 4, letter A yung sagot natin dyan. Number 5. Okay. By the way, class, yung number 6 onwards, i-separate discussion na lang natin yan kasi ibang topics na yan. Long-term investments yan. Okay? So doon tayo sa number 5. Ito yung last problem natin for investment property. Main problem, number 5. On January 2, 2021, Josa company converted its owner-occupied property, so PPE, to investment property. Ayan. That is to be carried at fair value. Uy, fair value naman this time. Kanina sa main problem number 4, cost model. Dito naman, fair value model. The carrying value of the property in the books is 4 million. Assuming the fair value of the property on the date of transfer is 3.8 million, the company should recognize. So from PPE, gagawin natin investment property. So sabi ni sir, kapag PPE, gagawin investment property, ito yung entry mo. Tama? So tingnan natin. Debit investment property at fair value. How much? Nakalagay dyan sa problem, 3.8 million. Credit PPE, how much yung carrying amount ng PPE natin? Tingin ka dun sa second sentence, 4 million. Tama ba, class? Ang balancing figure mo is a debit, which is a loss. Debit impairment loss, 200,000. So sagot mo dito, class, letter A, an impairment loss of 200,000 in the income statement. Impairment loss, ipe-present mo yan sa P&L or in the income statement. Okay? Question number 1, letter A yung sagot natin. Let's go to question number 2. Assuming the fair value of the property on the date of transfer is 4.4 million, the company should recognize debit investment property, 4.4 million. Credit PPE, 4 million. Okay, so balancing figure natin is a credit. Sabi ko kanina, class, yung credit, revaluation surplus. Credit revaluation surplus, which you will present under other comprehensive income, 400,000. Sagot mo dito, class, letter B or boy, a 400,000 revaluation surplus in the shareholders' equity. Take note, yung OCI, pinipresent mo yan sa shareholders' equity section of the balance sheet. Okay? Question number 1 is A. Question number 2 is boy. Alright. Let's finish this by answering the theory questions. Again, yung remaining problems is a separate discussion natin, other long-term investments yan. Okay? Let's go to theory number 1. Under PAS 40, investment property is defined as, punta doon sa letter A, property held to earn rentals or for capital appreciation, specifically land or building. Okay? Kapag machinery and equipment, hindi yan pwede sa investment property, PPE yan. For number 1, letter A yung sagot natin. Tingnan natin yung ibang choices. B, property held for sale, inventory. Letter C, identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. I think this is an intangible asset, no? Hindi yan. Letter D, property held for use in the production and supply of goods and services. PPE naman yung letter D or owner-occupied property. A tayo for number 1. Let's go to number 2. Which of the following is an example of investment property? A, property that is leased out to another entity under a finance lease. Pag finance lease, merong transfer of ownership, therefore, de-recognize yan. Okay? Dapat operating lease para investment property. Letter B, property held for short-term sale, inventory. Letter C, property that is being constructed or behalf of the third parties. CIP yan, construction in progress. Letter D yung sagot natin. Property that is being constructed or developed for future use as investment property. Again, kung ano yung intention of the management, yun yung magpe-prevail, yun yung follow natin. Letter D is the investment property. Number 3, which of the following could not be reported as investment property? A, real estate for undetermined use. Yes, capital appreciation, investment property yan. B, property held by the entity and leased out under operating lease. Yes, pag operating lease, sa atin pa rin yung property, therefore, investment property yan. Letter C, property owned by the entity and leased out under one or more operating leases. Letter D, property owned by entity, leased out under finance lease. Hindi, may transfer of ownership yan. I-recognize natin sa books natin yan. So, ang tanong dyan, it not be reported, dog yung sagot na dyan, class. Okay? Number 4, which of the following best describes owner-occupied property or PPE? Number 1, property held to earn rentals. No, investment property yan. Number 2, property held for admin purposes. Yes. For example, ginagamit natin sa office, PPE yan. Number 3, property held for sale, inventory yan. Number 4, property held for production or supply of goods and services, PPE. So number 2 and number 4, yan yung PPE or owner-occupied property. Letter C yung sagot natin yan. Numbers 2 and 4. Number 5, an investment property should be measured initially at cost. Letter A. Number 6, an entity purchased land for future use and appropriately classifies the investment as investment property. What valuation model may be used? Ibig sabihin, ano daw yung subsequent measurement? Cost model or fair value model? Letter C yung sagot natin. Cost model or fair value model. Number 7, a gain arising from change in fair value of an investment property. okay, which an entity has opted to use a fair value is recognized in yung mga unrealized gains natin or yung mga change in fair value, P&L lahat yan. Okay, letter A, net profit or loss for the year in the income statement. Number 8. Okay, for number 8, ito FYI na lang to class. Okay, so again, I think this is about leases pa rin. Meron tayong extensive discussion sa leases, so FYI na lang to. Number 8, a property interest that is held by a lessee under an operating lease, okay, may be classified and accounted for as investment property provided the following criteria are met. Choose the exception. Ganito nangyari dyan, class. Let's say si Mr. X, ayan. Pinalease niya kay Mr. Y yung property under operating lease. And then, si Mr. Y naman, pinalease niya yung property kay Mr. Z under an operating lease. Ganito yung nangyari dyan, class. So, sa point of view tayo ni Mr. Y. Okay, point of view ni Mr. Y. Yan tayo. Basahin ulit natin yung question. A property interest that is held by a lessee under an operating lease, si Mr. Y, may be classified and accounted for investment property provided the following criteria are met. Pag daw yung property class na nilease out sa atin, tapos nilease out din natin sa isa pang party kay Mr. Z, paano natin i-classify yung property na yan in the books of Mr. Y? Basically, ganun. So, sabi dyan, pwede pa rin daw yan investment property. Okay? Provided na na-meet niya yung three criteria, which is yung A to C. Okay? Basahin natin, class. The property meets the definition of investment property. Obviously, dapat land or building yan for earning rentals or for capital appreciation. Letter B, the operating lease is accounted for as if it were a finance lease. So, ibig sabihin, class, nung pinarent ni Mr. X or pinalease ni Mr. X kay Mr. Y yan, as if finance lease yung naging transaction nila. Kasi kapag finance lease, merong transfer of ownership. So, technically, si Mr. X, tina-transfer na yung ownership kay Mr. Y. So, as if yung building na yan kay Mr. Y yan. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng B. Okay? The lessee uses the fair value model. So, important din yun. Kapag ganito, class, hindi ka pwede mag-cost model. Alright? So again, FYI na lang yung item na yan. I-expound natin yan kapag nag-discuss tayo ng leases. So yung nakalagay sa question, choose the exception. Alin daw yung hindi criteria dito? Dog yung sagot mo dyan. Okay? The lessee uses either the cost or fair value model. Dapat fair value model lang. So again, so yung, for number 8, dog yung sagot mo dyan. Okay? Choose the exception, dog. So yung A, B, and C, yun yung mga criteria natin para maging investment property yan. Number 9, an entity has investment property that leases to another entity. The entity uses the fair value. Which of the following statement is true? A, the entity should value the equipment at cost less accumulated depreciation. Hindi. Pag fair value model, walang depreciation. B, the entity should report the increase in fair value in OCI. Hindi. In P&L dapat. Tama, profit or loss. Letter C, the entity depreciates. Mali din yan. Again, hindi ka nagde-depreciate. Dog yung sagot mo dyan. The entity does not record depreciation. Fair value model, hindi ka magde-depreciate. Therefore, dog for number 9. Last 3 items. Transfers from investment property to PPE or inventory are appropriate when there is a change in use. Letter A. Number 11, when an owner-occupied property is, so ibig sabihin class ng change in use, for example, originally, investment property, pinaparenta mo. Eh gusto mo na ibenta. O yun, pwede mo siyang gawing inventory. Parang ganun, okay? Or pwedeng pinaparenta mo siya dati, gusto mo na siyang gawing head office, gagawin mo na siyang PPE. So may change in use. Pwede mong i-transfer. Okay, so that's A for number 10. Number 11, when an owner-occupied property is transferred to an investment property at a fair value, ito, a decrease in the carrying amount of the property to its fair value at the date of transfer. Actually, pag nag-decrease yan, ibig sabihin may loss. Ibig sabihin may loss. Impairment loss yan. Okay, impairment loss. So letter D yan is recognized in profit and loss or for a revalued amount property charged against revaluation surplus. Again, next time natin i-discuss yan, yung revaluation surplus. Sa 11, dog yung sagot natin dyan. Okay? Number 12, which of the following additional disclosures must be made when an entity chooses the cost model? Requirement by PAS 40, kapag nag-cost model ka, okay, kailangan i-disclose mo yung fair value ng property, ng investment property. That's why, sagot mo for number 12, letter A, fair value of the property. Okay, so I think nasagutan na natin lahat ng questions for investment property. That concludes our discussion on investment property.